listening to the How to Health Podcast. Turn up that stereo, plug in those earbuds, or pull up a chair. It's time to master your health journey. Here are your hosts, Dr. Heidi Cook and athletic trainer Tyler Smith. Let's ride.
Howdy ho.
Good morning. How are we doing?
We are doing.
We're doing. Period. No explanation point, no question mark, just period.
Yes, we are just doing. I just had one of those nights where I couldn't fall asleep. And so we're just tired this morning. And this morning I've done pretty good about like transitioning to my 1 cup of coffee a day. And it not really being an issue. Today was one of those days where I was like, I'm just so peeved that I can't go sit downstairs and record this podcast while I sip on a delicious cup of coffee, because otherwise I'll only make it to like 2 p.m.
Yeah.
So I normally it really doesn't bother me. Today it bothered me.
Today was not the day.
Today was not the day, not at all. But other than that, we're good. We're doing great over here. How about you?
Doing well. We are still basking in our winter wonderland that is Boise right now.
Wow.
So last week we got, at my house, we got 9.5 inches of snow.
Wow.
And then this morning, I think we got 2 more inches.
Okay.
Which is interesting because we usually don't get that much snow.
Yeah.
And also because it's going to start to turn to rain today. So we're going to have a wintry, slushy wonderland that will be the city of Boise. So, but it was funny because I was in Seattle for indoor track meet, and there was this huge storm warning, and I was like just the whole time looking at the weather, trying to see if it like we were going to be able to get home, because I was like, uh-oh, this may not be good. This could be another night in Seattle. But luckily we landed and everything worked out okay. So
That's good. Yeah, I was wondering how your travels went with all of the snowstorms. My mother-in-law was flying in from back east, and she got here, but she was very delayed. And we have some friends who like got stuck places and stuff. So yeah, I'm glad that it wasn't a travel nightmare for you. We had wow. I still need that coffee.
Still need that coffee, yeah.
We had, let's see. We did not get that much snow, I would say. Like, we got the first like inch over the weekend. And then what was that, Monday night or Sunday night? I can't remember. Yeah, I think Sunday night into Monday morning, we got probably another 2 inches or so where we live. But it was just so cold, which is unlike, Colorado. Like normally it snows and then the sun comes out and the snow is gone, right? Like
Yeah.
That's just usually how it goes here. And we were rocking like, I just kept sending screenshots to my mom and sister, but they were also in like freezing cold temperatures, but like it was like -11, feels like -17, -5, feels like -21. Like it was so cold. It was so cold outside. And so the snow just like got packed down and basically turned into like ice. And so the roads were not very good. But then yesterday it warmed up to like 35 and the roads were basically like bare and dry again, except for whatever reason, I was running some errands yesterday evening. Everybody's parking lot. I have never witnessed parking lots that were so disgusting before. I'm like, did you guys not plow at all? Like it was just such a mess. And like it had melted, so it was literally like slush, but then like mixed with like mud, and it was literally like you were like trouncing through the mud. And I was like, what is happening? Like the street is bare, and I know there's more traffic over there, but like it blew my mind. And it wasn't just like one business establishment. It was everywhere I went. I was just like, what is happening here? It was a disaster zone everywhere.
That's what I feel like we're going to turn into here once, because this afternoon, like by noon, it's supposed to start raining, but we also have about a foot of snow everywhere around Boise. So yeah, it turns into this fun, slushy, rainy disaster. That's what I'm worried about.
But it was funny. I had posted about it on Instagram, and the number of messages that I got of other people just commiserating with me, and they're also below zero temperatures. It was just like the United States just froze last week, and I'm glad to be coming out of it, at least for us. I don't think we're expected to have any more snow. I don't really care about that. I just care that it's not negative 11 degrees, because this poor dog has been cooped up inside for 4 days.
Yeah, that's where the way our dogs are too. And it's like, you want to try to get them outside, but then they do get to play in the snow a little bit, but then you got to really grab a towel and dry them off. Otherwise, all that water comes in the house.
Gus is not a snow boy.
Oh, really?
He does not get excited about it. You have to go outside with him. Otherwise, he will avoid like walking in the grass to go to the bathroom. He does not like it, which I think is hilarious. But anyways, um, I'm glad that it's warming up. He'll be outside when it's cold, as long as it's sunny out. He likes it, but when it was that cold, I was just like, you can't be outside, or I think somebody's gonna call the animal shelter and like report me.
I mean, Phoebe will still sit outside at attention waiting for squirrels all day.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how rainy, snowy, coldy it is. She'll just sit there waiting at attention.
Coldy.
Coldy. It's my new word.
There you go.
It's coldy today.
Nice. Well, I'm glad things are good over in your neck of the woods. We're on week 21 for Baby Watch, and he's the size of a banana this week. We changed to
Elongated.
elongated,
Hammock style banana.
yes, elongated fruits this week. And then I think we changed to vegetables. So just get ready. We're about to go on a roller coaster here. I also, there's another site that it's the site that I like have my baby registry through. And they have like funny items that they compare it to, not just fruits and vegetables. And it said, baby is the size of My Little Pony this week.
My Little Pony. Do they still sell those? I didn't know they did.
I didn't know either. So anyways, Baby Cook is the size of My Little Pony this week.
My Little Pony.
Yes.
How cute.
Yeah. So we're just continuing on, trucking on.
Minus the sleep, obviously. Is it every night or was it just last night?
I was actually just telling my mother-in-law about this. It's very interesting. It's like my body is going through changes. But no, it's like my body will acclimate to, the size, the whatever's going on, right? Like my body will acclimate. And then I'll sleep great for like, I don't know, 5 days or so. And then it's like all of a sudden I'm wildly uncomfortable again. And it's because something changed and I'm just uncomfortable and I can't sleep. And then that lasts usually a couple of days until like my body reacclimates. And then I sleep good for like 4 or 5 days. And then something changes and I just flop like a pancake and can't get comfortable. And I have, you would just chuckle at my sleep setup. It's literally like, I got one of those big pregnancy pillows, but that was a fail. It just was not comfortable for me. But it had this one section that could like unzip, and I call it the noodle. So it's just like the long, skinny section. And then I have these two wedges, and I put like one wedge under my belly, one wedge like up against my back to give me some like back support. And then I like hug this noodle. It's quite the setup to get comfortable, but once I'm there, I feel okay. I just could not get comfortable last night.
Is Sam still in the same room, or has he been banished to a different room to be like, you can't move me, you can't move me, you go over there?
He's still there. Honestly, before the addition of the noodle, it wasn't that bad. Like the little wedges are small, and I think those are great, like compared to the giant pregnancy pillow, because it's not like I am, putting the Great Wall of China between us.
And the noodles serving as the Great Wall of China now.
But now with the addition of the noodle, he's banished to the other side of the bed.
At least, I mean, everyone laughs at Lindsay and I still have a queen size bed. We don't have like a king.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's what everyone's like. What? Wait, what? And we share it with our dogs. So.
Oh my gosh, I don't know how you guys do that.
We've managed. I don't know. And it's funny when we go on vacations and we get in a king size bed, she feels like way far away from me, like the other side of the world over there.
Yeah. Until we moved into this house, we were the same. We had a queen size bed. And I was the same. I was just like, we've made it work, thus far. And it's been totally fine. But then we'd go on vacation and stuff. And I'd be like, hello over there.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, and so, but now like the reverse happens, we have our king size bed and then we'll go sleep in a queen and it's just like, get away from me. You're so close to me.
And she's that person that's like, when she's sleeping, you're not like, don't breathe on her, don't get hot next to her. It's like, get away from me. I'm sleeping. There's none of that like snuggle bug, like, no, that's not happening. It's like, nope, I'm sleeping. You go over there. Don't breathe on me. Stay away from me.
Yeah. We're pre-sleep snugglers. We'll snuggle, watch reels with each other. And then we're both like, okay, good night. And we go to our respective sides of the bed. But I don't understand how couples can sleep like a whole night snuggling with each other. That, like, I just would wake up too much.
Yeah. It does get warm. I will say that.
Yeah, I need my breathing room, especially now that I'm growing.
Yeah, there you go.
Just like my personal development growth. I tried so hard. There was a moment before where I was like, I wonder if I could sneak in a transition here. No. Anyways, well, just chalk that up as poor transition number 982.
I was to say that's our thing, our wonderful transitions. That's our niche.
Yes. But we're excited to talk about today's topic. It's a little bit more broad, I think, than just like, our general health topics. But we wanted to talk about this concept of like self-discovery, personal growth. I think these two areas of like health, behavior change, personal growth, like all overlap, right? In various ways. But I think we can expand it beyond just the picture of health. And I talked about this a little bit in a reel earlier this week about just like, we're a multifaceted, well-rounded individual. And I think sometimes we get like hyper siloed into particular areas. And so I think this week would be a good week to dive into just the concept of like self-discovery, personal development, our own journeys or perspectives through that, and how you can, dip your toe into this space and kind of see how it impacts you and your life.
And I think in addition to those, it's been on my mind a lot, just through some books that I've been reading, some things that have just randomly popped up, but also on just the concept of, as also some topics that came up when you're raising a child is just, what does it mean to kind of come into your own, to discover who you are as a person, but also to do different things that enable you to be to head down that path to, not manufacture, but a lot of times as parents you draw this line between like, how do you buffer some of those things, but also like, how do you allow people to understand that life will be difficult and that those things kind of form you and help you discover who you are, what you can handle, and how you can kind of navigate through everything. And, how much of that do you, I don't want to say shelter, but how much do you let your kids just kind of figure it out, and how much do you try to guide them, and what is the value in both scenarios, but also just speaking that out and talking to listeners and different people about some of those situations or how we've gone through them ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think, transitioning into parenthood is like, puts all of a sudden, like puts your behaviors and habits and perspectives and everything like under a microscope all of a sudden. And I don't think it has to take that, but I think that's like a really common avenue that I've heard a lot of people kind of travel down in terms of like realizing certain things or looking to make particular changes once they have kids. And I think that's really interesting. We had some friends who, they were setting goals, just like as a couple, and they were like, we should ask our kids like what our goals should be, to see if there is like anything that, the kids thought that they could improve on. And he was just like, if you want to be humbled really fast, ask your kids that question. They were like, I don't know if I was like mentally prepared to field that, those responses from the kids. And he was just like, things that I didn't even think about, and just like put it right in my face. He was like, kids have a fun way of doing that too.
Oh yeah. Nothing will humble you faster than one of your own children. And you ask some question and just get this blatant like here. And you're like, oh, wow, you didn't buffer that at all. You're just throwing it right at me. So
Right. Thank you.
thank you. My self-esteem is a little torn down here. So we'll just rebuild it and go about our way.
Yeah. You had mentioned, reading some books recently, and I think for me, that was like kind of my gateway into the like personal development space was like reading that kind of just overall genre of book, which I didn't really get introduced to or dive into until I was in grad school. That was kind of my first taste into that realm. I, up until that point, like I had never participated in the therapy before. I had just never experienced that level of self-reflection before. Those types of personal development books, despite whatever, topic they're focused on, they have a way of prompting you to self-reflect in particular ways to see how, whatever topic or genre they are, helping you develop or learn. That is, to me, what I have found, like, amongst these personal development books, what I have found to be kind of the common thread of the self-reflection that happens. And I think that's kind of the basis and the start of where a lot of this personal development or self-discovery starts, is having that uninterrupted space to self-reflect, which I think for a lot of individuals, and for me, before I was introduced to this space, and like before I, got into the world of personal development, I was just like operating through life,
Yeah.
It's like, not that I didn't think twice about, like, being a good person or anything like that, but just like, I was just showing up how I knew how to show up. And that was the end of that,
Right.
And so it's interesting just to see how that has changed over time because of the simple act of self-reflection, period.
Yeah. And I think I had a similar, it's kind of this, I would mesh two different things, because if going off what you said, reading a book, I have a quick story of a book that is based on self-reflection, but it has kind of a funny story. I was listening to a podcast that talked a lot, and I think we've spoke a little bit about the book of love languages, like what is your love language? And the person who was speaking about the book really just said he really liked it. He enjoyed it. Like it kind of opened his eyes. So Lindsay and I share like Kindles, like we have 2 Kindles. And so I downloaded it because I was like, this is like on the basis of nothing being wrong. Just like he just kind of said, it makes you just kind of look at things different. So my premise was, I wanted to read it and just learn like maybe some things about how to be a better father, a better husband. Like let's just read a book, like you said, and kind of discover a little bit different way of thinking about stuff.
Yeah.
But it was interesting because I was like halfway through the book, and all of a sudden my wife was going to get a new book on her Kindle. And like when you download them, like it downloads them to both Kindles. We have both.
Mm-hmm.
And so like she saw the book and then like kind of like hit the panic button for a minute. Like, what's going on here? Like is something I don't know? Or like, do we need to talk? Like, why are you reading this book? Is it, like, why are you reading a book about relationships? And then we had to sit down and I was like, no, there's nothing wrong. Like, I just wanted to figure out, could I be doing something better, like in my role as a father and a husband? So it was kind of funny because there was that panic moment. But I think even as you read those, the other thing that I found out is, and I'll tie it a little bit into like my journey through fitness, is going through a lot of things that I did. You find out you have like a lot more strength inside of you than you ever realized as you kind of push yourself. Mm-hmm. But it's almost in the same way, because I've done lifting, Spartan races, road race, like I've just kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything. But you kind of also realize as you go through these that like you have limitations as a person.
Yeah.
And so like you kind of reflect on, instead of that like blind ignorance where you think you know everything and like, no, this is the way it is. You start to open that door through reading and through these things where it's like, hey, maybe I don't know everything. And hey, maybe like that fitness connection came to me as like, hey, maybe as I try to improve myself health and fitness wise, there's just things about me that I'm not aware of that I could, if I read and reflect on myself, I understand a little bit better about how I operate. And you can kind of look at it as like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is that something I should change? Is that something I should modify? Not in entirely changing the person you are, but just trying to better yourself in all aspects.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think like where I see a lot of benefit of this space, and I think a lot of people put their guard up around like personal development, self-help. Like they think it's woo-woo. They think it's only for business owners. They don't want people to judge them because they're reading self-help, quote unquote, style of book. And I felt that way when I was reading my first one. I was just like, what are people going to think? But then I'm like, who cares what the jabroni sitting next to me on the airplane thinks about what book I'm reading? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some person that I will literally never see ever again in my life. But like, I think there's a barrier there for a lot of individuals. I think the second thing is, I think some people get turned off to the kind of rah, ness of the personal development space. I think, and I'm not bashing on these speakers or these writers or anything like that, but like, I think about like Tony Robbins and like all of these like big names in the personal development space, and they hold these big conventions, and it's very rah. It can almost look from an outsider's perspective looking in like very cult-ish. But I think for a lot of people who are struggling, right, having somebody open their mind and have this moment of self-reflection and open their mind to a new way of thinking, like it's almost, it's really easy for them to like jump into that wholeheartedly. And so for somebody who's like maybe not struggling so much to step into that space, like we have our guard up a little bit. And I think one of the biggest takeaways that I wanted the listeners to have through this conversation is not all personal development books, resources, whatever, are necessarily super, rah, cookie cutter, seize the day, wake up at 5 a.m. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. But like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like, it's not all that way. And there's a lot to be said about finding personal development. This is where I will hang my hat, because I have some beef in the personal development space that I will gladly air out on this podcast. I'm trying to decide how to say this eloquently. There are a multitude of opportunities to pick up books, resources, whatever, from credentialed, educated individuals in this space.
Right.
Period. Where I have a lot of beef are individuals who are not educated, credentialed, or whatever, and like developed a morning routine and wrote a book. And not to name any particular names, but there are a few individuals in this space who have no educational background on behavior change, psychology. They have no educational basis on what they're talking about whatsoever, except personal experience. And I think that can be really dangerous in this space, especially when that personal experience isn't 100% truthful or is being masked by something else. And then they are monetizing on that, deception or untruthfulness. There are multiple individuals in this space who, wrote these amazing books on self-personal development and couples personal development, and then went and created an entire business on expensive couples retreats and all of these, couples courses and all of this stuff. And then they got freaking divorced. And then I was like, sick. So everything in your book is a lie. Got it. And I'm not saying like people aren't allowed to get divorced and move on, but like you based half of your business on giving other couples advice that was solely based on your marriage. It wasn't based or rooted in psychology, in relational therapy. Like there was no educational background outside of you basing it on your own personal experience, and your own personal experience was falling apart behind closed doors, so that shit gets me so fired up and so angry. So being conscientious about who we're looking to in the personal development space, I think is major key. If you can't tell, I get really fired up, and I get really fired up when I feel like I got lied to. And I 100%, like, one of the very first books that I read in this space in grad school was that book, Girl Wash Your Face.
Have not read.
Yeah, it was all over the place, especially for women. And like looking back now through non-rose colored glasses, I can just see like how much BS is in there. And it's like cute. and it like pissed me off to no end. And I think that could like turn somebody off to this space. And so the moral of the story, while that's horrible, and I could go on and on and on about this one particular individual, because I have gone down the rabbit hole, but I could put my tinfoil hat on and forever. But what I will say is, don't let those experiences prevent you from stepping into this space because you heard X, Y, and Z. And so now, you're skeptical about everything. But also don't let it prevent you from continuing forward in the space. I think what it did for me was just being really critical about the books and choices and materials that I was allowing into my space. Whereas like before, somebody on Instagram could say like, this was a great read, and I'd be like, sick.
And then you go read it.
That was it. You know what I mean? So I think that was a big lesson for me in this space.
Well, and I think going a little bit back, I mean, the thing that you have to realize on a lot of these, and what can happen, which also turns people off, is you read a book and it's almost transformative for you. Like, it's like, I changed the way I did everything, and now life is completely different and it's better. And we almost become like a zealot for it. You're like, no, this is, and then that's also not what we want to do, is because it's kind of like when you find someone, like I don't want to say that because I don't want to offend people. So we'll go in a different direction. But like, you start to preach and live and do this, and then you start to like project that on other people. Like, oh, you have a problem? This is the solution. Everything goes back to your answer the way it found. And the problem with a lot of these, even in books, is when I read them, I go through and say like, what tool can I take out of this book that will help me in my life? And I think that's why I think it's been so good for me, and why other people should at least venture down this path, because this is the analogy I wanted to give. Like, let's say you have to build a house, and as a person, you only have 5 to 6 tools. Well, if you only have 5 to 6 tools and you got to build a house, there's going to be a portion or a part of the house where you don't have the right tool for the job. But you're taking the tools you have and you're forcing them to work in this situation. which might be more difficult. It might take more time. And it may, like in some cases, like you may not have the tool equipped to do the job.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the more books you read, the more you go down this stuff, the more you can pick up another tool. And then you have it when it's time at whatever point in your life while you're building this house, you have that tool available in your tool belt. Whereas if you never read, you never go outside of this little toolbox you've been given when you were born, you're kind of just stuck with the way you like the way things are going. And you're trying to, you know, cut boards with a screwdriver. Well, that's not going to work really well. But if I learned how to use and I got those tools, so sometimes I think people just need to understand it's not like this zealot evangelist, you need to read a book and everything will be fine. I always go back to, I wasn't going to do it, but I will, like the people who find religion or like a born again, you know, XYZ, and they tell you about it all the time. Like, no. And you're like, okay, pause. Like, don't need that. Like the best way is to live the vision. And that's why I think a lot of times the other funny part in this whole thing is, and maybe you would think, oh, there's a person at my front door. Sorry, I'll turn that off.
You were just talking about being born again, and then the chimes started playing.
The chimes come. Look what just happened. It's a sign. I think the more you go down this, the more you realize that there's good and bad, but you also realize like there's a lot I don't know, just even about myself. Like,
yes,
you look at books like The Body Keeps the Score and stuff like that, where you don't even realize you're doing things that you do, and all of a sudden, like your mind gets open to a lot of stuff, and then you realize like it almost humbles you to the fact like there's a lot I don't know, and I need to stay in my lane and think outside, because there's a lot even in just everyday life. You know, you just take a little bit different perspective because you're like, I don't like this, but I don't know the full story, so I don't want to comment on it because I don't know what's going on, because there's a whole story behind a lot of stuff that we don't know. And I think when you don't go down that discovery path and don't start to learn about yourself, I had another epiphany. There we go. Apparently this does not want to stop.
the chimes are ringing.
Chimes are ringing. But then you don't know. And then you're like, okay, I just like you have a tendency to just grow in your mental development as far as like understanding a bigger picture of everything and how much you don't understand. And that's okay.
Yeah. Two of like my biggest kind of takeaways from being in this, spending time in this space is you don't know what you don't know. That's like, and that's a quote actually from one of my grad school professors. He basically just like came in and humbled all of us. And on the very first day of class, I remember he, sat there and talked about, he was like, a lot of you guys are coming in with, certifications and credentials, and you think you know everything about everything. I'm going to tell you right now that you don't. And I was just like, who is this guy? And, but then like going through that process and just like kind of knowing and accepting, I don't know what I don't know. Cause like I came in, well, that's not true. I did not come into PT school feeling like hot shit whatsoever. I felt like I was going to be the dumbest broad in class. I was surrounded by 40 other students who were so smart. And like, that was the first time, like, not the first time that I didn't feel like top of, whatever, that I don't want to sound like I was operating through life, like, crushing it at all times. But, I very much did take pride in the fact that like, I felt like in my athletic training world, like I was somebody that could be relied on to like execute on certain things. And then all of a sudden I was thrust in this space where I was just like, oh shit. But being in that world and having him sit there and be like, to everybody, right? You all might think that you have it all figured out and you have all of the answers. He's like, if that's the way you feel, what are you doing here? And I was just like, what a great way to put it. Like if you feel like you have all the tools and you know everything and you know what to do, what are you doing in this class? Like very clearly you have something to learn. So act like it, essentially. And I was just like, damn, that just like put it into perspective. And then like you can broaden it beyond that, right? Like, you know, I think having some level of personal confidence is great, but then also having a portion of your brain that's open enough to accept the fact that maybe you don't know, you know, maybe you don't know. And then the second thing that came from that is, you know, staying curious, right? That having that like kind of slice of your brain open to the possibility that you don't know, and you don't even know that you don't know yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, staying curious and open to discovering those things. What don't I know? You know, and I think it's common for a lot of individuals once we're out of like school and like maybe we've been trained in our career that we just get entrenched, right? We just get absolutely, you know, entrenched in our day-to-day life, in the operations of our job. And I think it's so easy to just continue down that path without learning or growing, you know, beyond that anymore, when it's not required of us anymore to learn a new skill for a job, to learn something for a degree. Like, you know, once that external pressure is removed, I think for a lot of us to just like move forward and carry on can be really easy. But I have found so much fulfillment in the pursuit of continuing to learn, you know, about myself or other topics. And that kind of leads me into remembering again that you're a well-rounded individual, and books are a great gateway into this. Maybe in the description box, Tyler and I can drop some of our favorites in this space that could, you know, be a gateway for you as well. But I think the second piece of that is making sure that you aren't siloing where the growth is happening. So, shameless plug, right, for MRC, our monthly reset club. Every month I take our community through an activity where we are exploring, you know, what went well, what didn't go well, where did I execute, where did I fall short, or, you know, where could I see more potential growth. But we do that across, you know, the gambit of the individual, right? The, you know, career, business, whatever that looks like, whether you work inside or outside of the home. Then, you know, family life, relationships, whether that's a spouse, whether that's friendships, whether that's, you know, relationships amongst your family, whatever that might look like. You know, we dive into health, physical and mental health. And having set aside time to, again, self-reflect on, how am I showing up in these areas? Am I feeling personally fulfilled in these particular areas? And if the answer is no, what needs to be tweaked or changed? And that's just like one really easy jumping off point to that path of continual self-discovery, and continual personal development and growth. So total shameless plug for the monthly reset club, but that is a huge focus of what we do there.
Well, yeah, and I think the most important part in all of that, and the reason it is so valuable, is one, self-discovery like requires you asking questions of yourself, like,
yeah,
what is, like, just the simple act of like what is going well and what is not going well. And I think sometimes, I mean, some people can be successful with books and writing it down, but sometimes having another person to provide perspective, and then for you to be open and be like, you know, there are probably times, more times than Heidi and I would like to admit, that people are listening, but probably not 100% buying into what we're saying. But at the same time, at least they're getting a different perspective or view, and they're open to the idea that maybe there's a different path or a different way to accomplish or do what they would like to do, And just asking that question sometimes out loud and getting an idea from someone else is just a great starter down that path, because then you're like, okay, wait a minute. Someone else told me this, and then you try it out and see if it works, it doesn't work. And even in that process, like if you succeed or if you fail, and just basically not failing, but finding out that that avenue didn't work for you, you're learning and developing, and then you're kind of moving on. And I think that's something that, especially nowadays with the way, social media is and stuff, like we don't do that a lot. We think everyone else has got it all figured out. Instead of asking questions, we're just looking for an example, which everyone is kind of an individual. So a lot of those paths don't really work. And you have to have that open conversation to find out how it fits in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, again, having that perspective, no matter what the avenue of personal development is whether you agree with it. I can't even name the number of personal development books where I'm reading. There's one that I'm reading right now, right? And his language at the beginning around health specifically is like, I probably wouldn't recommend this book to any of our clients, right? Because a lot of the language that he uses is very triggering around food and exercise and, the way he views it. And if it has worked for him, great. Right. And so there is a sense of like, take what you need and leave what you don't, and we don't have to blacklist an individual just because of, one idea that they had doesn't align with your particular path. And you can have the ability to have that like open discussion. And I think that is really helpful and can also help build confidence in the path that you're developing for yourself. Because if you can sit there and read that book and be like, you know what, that doesn't align with me, that doesn't align with where I'm trying to go, I think that helps you develop your own personal confidence in the route you're going. But at least you were introduced to a different perspective and you had that kind of open, that open reflection in your brain, which can not only help you open your mind to other perspectives, but then help you build confidence in, the routes that are ultimately going to serve you to get you to where you want to go. And then you can be open to other perspectives or nuggets or tools or whatever that author or that individual is providing, and, take those and run with those. And I think that's another just big takeaway that I have had, similar to what Tyler had said of, we don't need to become the, evangelist. Is that the word I'm looking for? For, every single piece of content and every single line in every single personal development book. But what it does is it helps you think, right? It helps you, again, self-reflect, but more importantly, sometimes I'll sit there and I'll realize that like I read a whole page, but I didn't actually read or comprehend the page because my brain was actually still like processing through what I had read on the previous page,
Sure.
because my brain is like going through that kind of like, that kind of self-conversation almost. And I think that process is invaluable, and one that we don't really get in any other space in our life, right? Like in your job, you show up and do your job. In, parenthood, you can just show up and keep the tiny humans alive, right? Like there are ways that we can just get very entrenched in the way we're going. And I think not to beat the punch to the sauna, but I think the biggest takeaway that I want is just, this avenue of personal development and self-discovery is an avenue to allow yourself to be a learner again, but also see how being a learner in these different areas of your life can can really impact not only how you show up in it, and be a better, more full version of yourself as you're showing up in these different pockets of your life, but also how you feel as you navigate those different areas of your life and make them, feel more aligned with the individual that you want to be.
Yeah. I was laughing when you said parenting the tiny human, keep them alive, because I can tell you, I just have one, but even in one individual, you have a map or a plan of the way you want to do it. And this is probably another pitch for what we were talking about today. And you can learn real quick that doesn't work with the child you have.
Right.
And there are two avenues. You either beat your head against a wall, or you, being the adult, decide I'm going to read some stuff and I'm going to figure out how to interact better with my child and guide them better, because this path is not working. And, I've also talked to people who are like, yeah, each kid, you just do it a little bit different. But if you don't open yourself to discover or to learning that and understanding that, then you just kind of shove a, square peg in a round hole over and over and over again. So
Yeah, totally. Should we head to the sauna and wrap it up?
let's head to the sauna.
Welcome, everyone. It's time to head to sauna. Let's dive in. Let's go.
Okay. I guess I kind of already gave away my big takeaway. So let's start with yours and see if there's anything that I can add.
I think what I really kind of wanted to do was, obviously we're big advocates for self-discovery and self-growth.
Yeah.
Mainly because I think it's been so beneficial in my life, and it's prepared me for the fact that life is hard. It's not easy. Yeah. And the more tools and the more I understand myself and the more I learn to grow, it doesn't make life easier. It just gives me the tools to deal with the problems as they come, and to not allow anything to go completely off the tracks. You know what I mean? Because you can get kind of, I don't want to say bogged down, but life can be really hard sometimes. It's levels of hard. It's not ever, super easy. But the more you understand yourself and the more you go down that path, and I've done it in a couple of different things. Obviously, reading books, fitness and health has helped me a lot. And I can say that overwhelming me, that's been one of the biggest advocates of just self-discovery and helping me in life, is just being physically fit, having that avenue for not only growth, because I'll listen to podcasts or audiobooks while I'm doing it, but also giving myself space and just, once again, going back to what I say, it also helps you stand a little taller, have a little bit more serotonin, and understand that, if I can lift this heavy weight, or if I can run this amount of distance, that no matter what life throws at me, I know I can at least stand up and bear it and then keep walking forward. And so if you ever have questions, feel free to reach out to us. And like we said, we'll put some recommendations for books, because I'm telling you, I've read leadership and growth books and everything, and they run the gamut from that book was amazing, I liked it, to I would never read that or recommend this to any human ever. So they're not all good, but I think even in trying one and finishing it and then deciding what works for you and doesn't work for you, you've just taken a step forward. So
yeah, absolutely. I think the last thing I'll piggyback on that is just, having this avenue, as Tyler said, can allow you to build confidence in your actions. And whether that's through fitness, through your relationships, through whatever it might be, having the ability to step into this space can not only help how you show up, but can help how you feel as you show up. And I think those are, the two things that we're essentially looking for when we're looking to change or improve how we're feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all just I would just encourage everyone, obviously, to try it. At least to give it a shot, because then you have no regrets that you were trying to, at least understand and or grow a little bit. And then the scary part is, I think, as you do it, it becomes a little bit like you kind of don't crave it like all the time, but you at least periods of life are like, I need to do something to grow a little bit. I've been too stagnant lately.
Totally. 100%. And avenues, I think the two easiest avenues to get started, we'll put some book recommendations below. I think that's a great way to dip your toe in. And the other one is MRC if you want somebody to lead you through it. That is kind of the main focus of MRC. While some of our other programs are more, high level behavior change based, MRC gets to be really kind of loose personal growth, personal development, in a way that still gets to be morphed to you and your life, through having that third party, myself, shout out, basically walk you through those self-reflection activities, and set you up each month to continue down that path. So if you're new to this space, or you're just wanting a community of other people who are working through their own, personal development, that is a great avenue to check out, and it's only $25 a month. So
nice.
You have trivia for me?
I do have trivia.
Let's do it.
And these are, I'm going to change them, but they are all about personality today. We're going to talk all about trivia and personality.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Studies have shown that this, how do I want to put this? This one particular fact in your life that has to do with your family can drastically reflect who you are and your personality as a person.
Like my genetics?
Close.
Oh, my DNA.
No, think less about that and more about the family dynamic.
My heritage.
It's where, are you ready?
Yeah.
Where you are born in the line of your siblings.
Oh.
I know that wasn't a great way to ask that, but no,
that's interesting still. Okay.
Studies indicate that the order you were born can influence your personality type. It is common for firstborn children to be more responsible and better leaders, whereas lastborn children tend to be more carefree personalities who are irresponsible and impulsive.
Well, that doesn't describe me or my sister whatsoever.
This is where we're going to find out if my sister is listening to my podcast, because she'll send me something there.
That is so funny. It's so true, though. Like, I send stuff to my sister all the time. So she has 3. So she has like the classic, like oldest, middle, youngest, like dynamic in her household. Sometimes it really fits. Sometimes it doesn't so much, but it is just funny to see like those patterns kind of repeat themselves across families is pretty interesting.
It is. It's kind of funny.
Sam is also one of 3. But I don't think that I do not think that his family has that classic dynamic. Really? Sam has some firstborn traits about him, but I would say like his youngest brother is like the most like outwardly responsible.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And where like his younger sister, the middle, might have some more of the like youngest child tendencies, but she also has some like middle child tendencies. So it's very interesting. Like I wouldn't say they are like the classic oldest, middle, youngest. They definitely all maybe attribute some traits to oldest, middle, youngest for sure, but it's not like the stereotypical. I think they all they all have things that would like counter that, I think. But
Sure.
It's always fun for me to watch like from an outsider looking in, because I only had one sister, right? So it's just like the dynamic between the two of us.
Nice.
Yeah.
Individuals who have this character trait often humiliate other people as a defense mechanism.
Insecurity.
Low self-esteem.
Okay, yeah. I feel like I get a point for that.
Yeah, it is. Humiliating others for someone who has low self-esteem is also a way or a avenue to build your own self-confidence.
Yeah, isn't that sad?
It is, but like I feel like if you find you may just think it's who you are, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute. Why, like the whole self-growth, like why am I doing this? And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, that a moment of reflection.
There's some trolls in my comment section that could really use a healthy dose of personal development.
Really? I can't imagine. I don't know how to turn this into, but this will just add to it. People with strong and or optimistic personalities have what effect would you assume that this has on your life? If you have a strong personality and or optimistic, it would improve what throughout the course of your life?
The opportunities that I have.
Yes, broadly, you have a higher quality of life.
Oh.
They tend to have more opportunities.
Yes.
And then it also goes on to say that, different things as far as interactions with other people are healthier. Like just overall, the more optimistic you are in life, the more it reflects, like in your mind, the more it reflects throughout the course of your life.
I love that. Power of positive thinking. That's a book, I think. I haven't read it, but that is a personal development book, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, this is interesting. I don't even know. I found this on one of the most interesting psychological facts about personality is that your personality can be detected by this alone. This, what do I want to say? Sense. Does that make sense? Like one of your senses. There's actual, like you can detect someone's personality from this.
Based on their smell.
Yeah, it is.
No shit.
Yeah. I don't even know. Like it says individuals who are neurotic, extroverts, or dominant all tend to have a specifically different smell from each other.
Wow. I wonder what my smell is.
Wonder what your smell is. Wonder what my pheromones are. Okay, yeah. One more. Oh, cool. As you get older, your personality changes. There are 3 specific avenues or places where where you change. Can you guess any of them?
I feel like as you get older, it's just like the stereotypical, like as you get older, you get more grumpy and like curmudgeonly. So is it like your outlook?
That is one. You are more or less moody and neurotic. That's one place that people can change. And there are 2 others.
Okay. I can be, I don't know, like sleepier, lower energy. No. One more guess. Like less open-minded?
So a little bit. Yeah. Okay. That would go. So another one is you are either more or less agreeable over time.
Okay.
You either tend to agree with people more or you want to staunchly like not, no, that's wrong. which
Yeah.
that just sounds like an old person. Like, no,
Yeah. No.
it's not the way it was in 1971. So no.
So no.
The other thing is you become more conscientious overall.
I like that.
Yeah,
Good trivia.
kind of.
Like kind of aligned with today's topic.
Did I tried to, but then there wasn't like straight trivia. So you're like finding facts and trying to like ask a question out of a fact. So
Out of fact. Yes, absolutely. All right. Well, hopefully this got the wheels turning for you this week, and we'll see you guys next week.
thanks for listening. See you next week.